All right, folks, we are streaming. How is everybody doing tonight? Everybody, we are here with Crystal McGhee, and I have got to mute this other video before we start getting an echo of this. So, everybody, we have Crystal McGhee here, and already we got El Gargoyle in the chat. Hail, El Gargoyle. So
Hey, man.
we're gonna have some visitors here. Um, So, Crystal, everybody, welcome Crystal. Make her feel at home here on this channel. Uh, you are totally welcome here. You know, on this channel, comic book creators are basically family. You know, you're
Thanks, man.
definitely welcome. Make yourself at home, I guess. You know, put your feet up. You know, whatever you got to do. So, I want to know a little bit about you, a little bit about Crystal McGhee's background. All right, we're going to turn
Sure, sure.
this music down a little bit to cut down on the choppiness. So, okay, so tell me a little bit about you, a little bit about your backstory, the stuff that you want to tell people.
All right. Well, right out of high school, I went into theater and stuff. And I was actually a projectionist at a local theater dealing with mostly 35 millimeter and stuff like that. And I've always been a fan of just movies and television in general. And my dad kind of got me into comics. A lot of early Transformers stuff, G.I. Joe, uh, just a ton of Marvel comics. And then once Image kind of came on the scene, that was like amazing with Spawn and all that good stuff. So yeah,
Yeah, in the '90s, Image was pretty cool.
yeah, it's where it was at, dude.
Definitely. So you were always into movies. Were you
Hmm.
a theater rat, or were you more of a cable recorded?
Definitely, yeah, theater. That's funny, yeah. And I mean, currently I'm a script doctor, and basically, what that is that they bring you scripts and you kind of edit them, get them to a point where they're, marketable. And so that's pretty fun. And, I've always loved writing, so it's just, the perfect outlet.
Yeah, that is a pretty cool job to have, I imagine. They don't make you stick to the formula, do they? I mean, or is it just basically, formulaic? What the hell? Which word do you use?
I mean, it definitely depends on the client, but mostly we go by the format, yeah.
Yeah, I hate personally. I get sick of the formula because it gets predictable after about 70 or 80,000 times you've seen it.
Uh-huh. That is true.
It's my biggest pet peeve with the Sci-Fi Channel is like everything on there. I
Ooh.
know what's going to happen next.
Oh yeah. The Sci-Fi Channel is just its own little dimension over there.
Totally.
It's like you have Sharknado and all of that odd stuff. And then most of it seems like a fantasy and not particularly sci-fi. Like they had Deadly Class over there. I would kind of say that's like, well, I don't know. You'd say that's kind of like action based, but there are some light elements.
They have changed up a lot. You know, I don't want to get too much into like they're running because we're not really here to talk about
Yeah.
the Sci-Fi Channel. Um, but uh, but to make a long story short, they basically have over time gotten what I call studio lazy, whereas
Mm-hmm.
whereas they don't even really care about, oh, we found this project, let's turn this into something. It's okay, well, we need a project that covers X, Y, and Z. Who's going to be in it, and then now who's going to write it? So it's like they build the project backwards.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
Very true.
yeah, and it shows in the end result. Yeah,
I mean, and yeah, people can always tell the difference.
right. I've always had a problem with that. I mean, but that's because I have a creative art background, so it's like I hate I hate people that are unoriginal unless their unoriginality in itself is original in some kind of way. You know?
Mm-hmm.
Like I know people who have taken something that wasn't that original and tweaked it so hard that it just blew my mind, you know. And then I've seen people, take stuff that was, completely what you thought might be original, and and even though it wasn't done like so magnificent, it's like the original idea itself made the whole thing worth watching. So,
Mm-hmm. And I mean, that's all it is, really. Just little changes. You know, if you put the effort in, it'll definitely show in the end products.
right. Well, yeah. Yeah, if you put the effort in and you're open to criticism, constructive criticism.
Oh, yeah, that's a big thing.
Yeah, yeah,
I mean, some people, their stuff fails because they won't take criticism. You always have to, learn from, previous stuff that you're working on, just always better yourself, man.
well, and as a writer, you have to realize that everybody has weaknesses. Nobody's a perfect writer. You may be an excellent wordsmith. You may be an amazing at grammar. You may be an extremely excellent speller, but it's unlikely you're all three.
Yeah, exactly. But that's what the editor's for. Yeah,
Right. Yes. I would look like a fool without an editor.
exactly.
I have a real bad habit of writing in both present and past tense. Um,
That's interesting.
and then I don't catch it. You know what I mean? Because when I'm reading it back to myself, I don't. You know what I mean? It's not like I'm thinking that way.
Hmm.
So yeah. So that's probably like the biggest reason why I need an editor is because I need someone to say, no, this word is present tense. It should be past tense. It's like as simple as that. You know, that's the biggest thing for me. So what's the craziest stuff you run into and when you're editing scripts? Tell me a wild story.
Ooh. It's like so many. But sometimes people will, let's say, purchase an idea, and there's what I would call like a really rough version of this script that they purchased. And then you kind of have to overhaul and go through it, and it's just a pain. And it's crazy. Like that happens a lot of times. Like they buy it on the idea. Maybe there's a loose, script attached to it, but it's really rough early stages, and you have to try to, tweak that to get it into a place where it's, presentable.
Oh, so somebody just basically buys an outline and throws it at you and says, make a script out of this.
Uh-huh. Yeah. Exactly. A very rough outline. May
Yeah.
I? Yeah. Wow.
Yeah. That is crazy, but I can see
Mhm.
that happening. I mean,
Or
expect
crazy deadlines. It's like, hey, there's this, second draft. We kind of need it in a finalized form. Can you do that by the end of this week?
wow.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'd be like, hell no. I get crazy deadlines though. One, like I told you, I do a lot of things for a living. One of the things did you dropped out? She'll be back in a moment, I hope. We are waiting for her return. How is everyone in the chat? I'm still connected, right? Yeah, I'm still here. Oh, that's the wrong remove. Gonna put on some music while we wait. Let's watch her video while we wait. And she's back, ladies and
Hey, yeah,
gentlemen.
sorry about that, guys. It was like one of those forced updates that just happened out of nowhere.
Well, we
Uh,
watched your video on your Good Night campaign page while you were gone, and then I filled their ears with a little bit of audio library music.
Fantastic.
So we tried to make well of the time. Any idea what we were talking about? Anybody remind us? Probably not. So we're probably making fun of somebody. That's usually what happens on this channel.
Well, it is the internet, so
Right. So the internet was playing us back. It's that instant karma thing. So you are in the LA area?
Yeah, Burbank.
Burbank. Oh, fun. I have a lot of friends that live in the Burbank area.
Really? Yeah, it's pretty nice out this way.
Yeah, it happens to be a way to get out of the city, quote unquote,
Mm-hmm.
and you can jump on the freeway and almost have a free run to Northern California from Burbank.
Yeah. So nice.
Yeah, I used to stay at my friend's house in Burbank because it was a way to avoid all the BS. I didn't have to drive, you know what I mean? I could just, drive into Burbank, from Fresno really easily and
Uh-huh.
and then just, deal with LA from there, It's like instead of, hitting a 405 and trying to deal with like actual, you know,
Ooh, no.
or trying to get over
Yeah.
the eyes, you know what I mean? Or you know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, no, it's
Ooh,
yeah, that's the beautiful,
shivers.
right? Yeah, you see, yeah, exactly. You know exactly what I'm talking about. a lot of
Oh
people, a lot
boy.
of people, a lot of people don't come to California very often.
Yeah, and then they're surprised when they hit those traffic spots.
Exactly.
You're stuck.
Yeah.
Oh boy.
You wanted to change lanes. Oh well, that'll take you.
Ooh, good luck. Yeah. Better stay in the lane that you need to turn. Yeah.
Yeah, just work your way over there eventually. Hopefully,
Yeah.
hopefully somebody will be nice enough to let you get in front of them if you let your turn signal ride long
Good
enough.
luck.
Yeah. Good luck. It better not be a hot day. If it's a hot day, forget it.
Ooh. Just like around the holidays. Ooh.
Oh, I actually avoid LA after Halloween if I can help it. Yeah,
Ooh. Yeah,
yeah.
good idea. Yeah. Because
If
I
I
tried driving out that way around Thanksgiving and it was a disaster. Wow. Yeah. That is awful.
it is. I mean, it's crazy because there's a lot of different things going on. Like between Halloween and Thanksgiving, everybody's trying to get their stuff done because
Oh,
after
yeah.
after Thanksgiving, nobody wants to do anything for the rest of the year. You know,
Mm-hmm.
they want quarter three to end at Thanksgiving unless they're in retail. So it's just everybody's running around, everybody's irritated, everybody's like, I got to get this done right now. Nobody's got any kind of holiday spirit, and
None at all. Yeah.
and a lot of them are grumpy because they binged on Halloween candy and they're trying to drop 3 or 4 pounds. She's laughing, everybody, because she knows exactly what I'm talking about.
Yes.
And then and then and then after Thanksgiving, right? People like have a moment of holiday spirit unless they have a really nasty family. Um,
Barely. Yeah.
yeah, and so like the holiday spirit kind of goes for about a week, and then it's like I'm burned out on shopping spirit, holiday spirit, and then it's like
Mm-hmm.
fuck you and die holiday spirit, and after that point, it's like I'm sick of the
The
holiday
evolution.
spirit.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's like yeah, I mean it's really weird. That's one of the things about where I live. I don't have to deal with that as much because Fresno's a little bit slower paced, so I don't have to deal with people getting irritated and turning the jerks so fast, you know.
Yeah.
Everything moves so much faster in LA, So anyway, enough of that. So now let's talk about the good night.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
What do
What
you want to know?
Well, the first thing I want to know is where did the idea come from? What inspired the good night?
Ooh, so this is a good one. So a while back, I watched Akira,
Okay.
and if you've ever seen that's like a Japanese animated feature, and there's this scene in the film where one of the main characters is like in a hospital setting because of some of the previous events that happened. And he sees this like little toy car, a toy bunny, and a toy bear. And these objects have like these kids with some psychic abilities and whatnot that are kind of controlling these objects, kind of embodying them. And so I got to thinking, what if there was, let's say, a grown adult kind of trapped in the body of like a child's toy or something similar to that. And so I was thinking, well, everybody as a kid had like teddy bears, stuff like that. So, and I've always been a fan of like Arthurian legend and stuff like that.
When we say
So it's like,
Arthurian, you
why
mean like
not?
when you say Arthurian, a lot of people wouldn't know. You're talking about like Camelot and whatnot,
Yeah,
right?
yeah, King Arthur and all that good stuff. Yeah. And so I was like, well, what if it's a knight, a lost knight from the round table that gets trapped in the body of a teddy bear and is kind of forced to walk the earth in that form? So then I just kind of started to build the story around that.
That's fun. So, why the teddy bear? What inspires? Did you have a special teddy bear that inspired this teddy bear, or
Yes. So I had a teddy bear. It was homemade. Like my grandma made it. And she loves to make, teddy bears and different stuffed plushies and stuff like that. And it was really cool. It was like really large. And his name was like Mr. Sleepy Bear. It was so cute. And she made like a little sleeping gown for him and everything, a little sleeping cap. And so I kind of based the look of, Sir Alexander on that teddy bear.
okay?
Yeah,
Okay,
yeah.
that's cool. That's very personal, and that's an excellent touch. So, give us um, the elevator pitch of the good night.
All right. Well, it's there on the page, but a trail of blood, tragedy, and misfortune follow an immortal knight hell bent on saving his master.
Well, I
Yeah.
meant the expanded elevator pitch.
Ah,
Elevator ride is that
yeah,
that.
yeah. It's like I need more coffee today.
Ah,
Yeah.
yeah. Well, I just drank a Red Bull with dinner so that I wouldn't be sleeping.
Wow. Yeah, Red Bull with dinner. You've got to be wired after that.
Uh,
I
I,
would.
I
I
I
would imagine.
I drink so much coffee during the day because I have to do so many different things. You know what I mean? And
Ooh.
adjusting focus from one thing to another is difficult. Especially one of the things that I have to do is involves a large degree of web programming. Um,
Mm-hmm.
uh, so I tend to drink like a pot of coffee, but by lunchtime, you know,
Mm-hmm.
and so it takes a lot to get me, to get my blood pumping back up,
Mm-hmm.
so like when it gets to be, around like 5, 6 o'clock at night, I need the Red Bull to even like sound like I'm not falling asleep.
Uh-huh.
I might be awake, but
Oh boy.
I'll
Yeah.
sound like, like I'm just annoyed with everybody.
Well, back to the elevator pitch.
Yeah.
It's basically a Sir Alexander, an Arthurian knight trapped in the body of a teddy bear and imbued with the power of Merlin, in present day must protect a boy named Jack from the evil Queen Belladonna. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, that's cool. So tell us about, see, so the teddy bear we know about, Sir Alexander, and he's a former knight of the Round Table, correct?
Yes, correct.
All right. Now, who is this evil queen, and tell us about her?
Ooh, so Queen Belladonna comes from a planet called Zarthus, and it's a living planet that kind of feeds on the energy from the royal bloodlines. And Jack's father is originally from this planet. He's half dragon hybrid. And the dragons kind of pass on their power to the next leader. And Jack's father was supposed to take that over. but he decided to leave Zarthus for Earth for this female woman that he met there. And so he kind of left Zarthus in this odd position because they don't have an heir from the dragon bloodline to kind of feed this planet. So it's slowly dying, and like all of these different royal, bloodlines kind of have to band together. It's kind of a ritual to feed this planet. So his father kind of just left them, high and dry, for lack of a, a better word. And
Wow.
so Queen Belladonna has kind of become bitter because she was supposed to actually marry, Jack's father to, perform this ritual and kind of, preserve the planet. So now the only hope for Zarthus is his son Jack to kind of bring this planet back from its death throes.
Okay. And so now Jack, is this the guy sleeping on the bed here?
Correct. Yeah.
Okay. Now, we got, this is beautiful artwork, by the way. Who are
Yeah.
you? Are you the artist, or do you hire out?
No, that's actually Francisco Nardi. He's from Brazil. And he does the artwork traditionally on canvas with charcoals and various paints like that. And then he'll bring it into softwares like Photoshop, and he'll kind of clean it up and add some additional effects.
Interesting. That's interesting. Going traditional and then digital afterwards.
Because that's how you get some of those really neat textures, like on Sir Alexander, and just the kind of fur texturing.
Yeah, some of that is probably easier to do in a 3D and 3D software environment than it would be by hand. But, yeah, I've always been impressed. I'm not an illustrator. I mean I have some drawing capabilities, but most of my you know like I've done some painting,
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, no, this stuff is far beyond my capabilities. It always blows my mind when people, because like this guy, like he said his name is Jack. What's the name of the boy here?
That is Jack there. Yeah.
Okay, so Jack's face here, I mean, that's almost photo
It's
quality,
so expressive. Yeah.
right?
And I
So
feel like traditional, like it catches that a little bit more, especially if you're working on canvas and stuff like that. I feel like it would be a lot easier to get some of those expressions. I don't
right.
know. Yeah.
Yeah, the painting techniques in general would get more of a photo quality than, say, traditional comic book illustration would.
Mm-hmm.
So that the fact that he's doing on canvas first explains a lot of why it looks like it, especially these painting. So
Mm-hmm. And like each panel is just like its own little work of art.
I can't imagine how long it would take to do this if he's doing it with.
He's fast, man. Like he turns stuff around like a page in like about 3 days. Yeah. He's insane.
Yeah, that's amazing. So okay, so then I need to ask, why black and white?
Ooh, well, that's because I really love, Ninja Turtles, like that original run.
Uh-huh.
And I feel like when you have a comic in black and white, depending on, the project, if it calls for that, I feel like it's a little bit more expressive and kind of leaves stuff to the imagination a little bit more. And especially with as much rendering that's going on here. I just don't feel like you would get the same vibe if it was in color, at least not for this
Well, yeah,
particular story.
it'd definitely be a different vibe.
Mm-hmm.
Um, obviously, some people, obviously didn't hurt your campaign too much being in black and white.
Yeah, and I mean it's kind of like those old horror films,
it does
Nosferatu, stuff like that.
it does have that horror kind of feel, but then you start looking through it, you can tell it's almost equally fantasy as it is horror.
Mm-hmm. And like we put a lot of thought into like a panel placement and stuff like that. And you notice, like, if you scroll down a little bit more on this page, like, oops, a little too far. Uh, just up one. There we go. Like where Sir Alexander is just there and you see that tier,
Right.
like how it's stacked and it's kind of just a very tiny, really close in panel. Like you almost feel kind of claustrophobic when you look at it. And we put a lot of thought into stuff like that. So it was fun, definitely
Yeah.
putting it together and just, seeing what I wrote on page come alive.
That part's fun. I can account for that. I also get excited to. I don't know. Sometimes what I put on a page, you know what I mean, isn't anything like what I get back from the illustrator, and then the back and forth is a pain.
hmm
But
And especially the collaboration, and sometimes they'll bring something new to the scene that
almost
you didn't
always,
even think about. Yeah.
yeah, almost always. In fact, I say this often, and and it pleases my illustrator to hear it, and maybe inflates his ego, but but usually I would say, 80% of the time when him and I are arguing about something, he was right.
hmm
Because usually if the argument ends when I'm right about the thing, because because he's not as stubborn as me, I guess. But like, like if it's something that is like he actually messed up on, I'll point that out, and then he'll be like, yeah, I messed that up and I'm going to fix it. If it's something that he just disagrees on, he'll unless I can show him how it's relevant to the story, usually I'm gonna lose that argument.
hmm
But I need him, and he's a damn good illustrator, so I'm not gonna ruin that with my ego.
Yeah. It's definitely a lot of give and take.
Yeah, and you have a good illustrator that you're working with. So is he going to be the one on your second book?
Yes, he will.
Excellent.
Yeah. We do have a guy doing flashback sequences. That way you can kind of distinguish between the stuff that's taking place like in medieval times with King Arthur and all that good stuff. And then the present day is all just Francisco.
So you're gonna
So it'll
have
be a nice.
two different styles, one for the flashbacks. That's gonna be
Yes.
interesting.
Yeah, I mean, like, the best example I can kind of explain is like, in Harry Potter, like when they're kind of going over the origin of, man, what is that guy's name? The main baddie. I can't
Um,
believe that it's slipping right now. This is so sad.
Voldemort.
Yes, there we go. Yeah, Voldemort. Or is kind of explaining all of that. And it was very stylized, kind of over exaggerated. Character, models, stuff like that. So, and the flashbacks will be in color. So that's,
You gotta love reading this kind of stuff from El Gargoyle.
aw, thanks,
El
El
Gargoyle.
Gargoyle. Yeah. Because I mean, like when usually you see flashbacks, they're usually, in black and white, or they're kind of this goldish, yellow kind of tone to them. But our flashbacks will be in full color. And then the rest of the book will remain in black and white.
Also, your flashbacks are gonna be full color, so that's gonna be awesome. See there,
hmm
and that'll even make them stand out more.
Exactly. And I mean, especially because, you're only spending a little bit of time on the sort of flashback sequences to really catch your attention at the start of the book and kind of intertwined throughout the rest of the miniseries.
That's cool though. I like it. I like that. Can't wait to see that happen.
Yeah, yeah.
So, okay, so what is
Okay.
without spoilers, what is like one of without spoilers the coolest parts of this story? The thing you're
Ooh.
most excited for people to read?
Ooh. Like this issue or like just any of them, kind
Yeah,
of.
this issue that's
Okay,
available.
this issue. Well, I'd have to say there's a really great sequence, a fight sequence between this giant and Sir Alexander and the rest of the crew on Zarthus. And it's really crazy what Francisco did. It's like really larger than life. Like you see the giant's foot kind of slam down, and then you also find out some other reveals later on with one of the characters. It's pretty neat. So, yeah.
Okay, so that's cool. So, all right. I'm like trying to like let my mind explore that to see if there's like good question inside there, but you were vague enough to where I can't even follow that up with a question. Um,
I
uh,
know, because it's, yeah, just saying which character it is, it would give it away.
right,
So it has to be vague for now. Yeah.
yeah. So I love this twisted tree.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, because like Zarthus is just dying and sort of like weird growth is just sprout up all over the planet. And that's these kind of trees, and it's kind of like the earth is taking back, especially with the royal bloodlines not able to complete that sort of ritual. It's all just kind of dying, and vines are growing up everywhere, and it's just a mess.
Excellent. All right, now is this who's this? Is this the witch again?
No, this is one of the characters. His name is Jeffrey.
Okay.
And this character, um, he sold his soul in order to, kind of seek revenge for his father's death. And in this universe, when you kind of make a deal with the devil and sell your soul, you kind of become a sort of a demon and sort of like a weird skeletal creature. And he has a couple of different forms with that. But this is his permanent look now.
So I see he's got a book on his back with a face.
Yeah, yeah.
Okay, so what's that about?
So this is an interesting little, backstory. It'll kind of be covered later on, but it's not that big of a spoiler. I mean, we even kind of go over it in, the first couple of pages. But Jeffrey lives out in a cabin in the woods, as one does in most horror films and all that good stuff. But his wife actually cheated on him with this other guy, and he caught them. And that severed head there on his chest is his wife. And he turned the guy into a book.
Yikes.
So, yeah. And that's kind of their eternal punishment. Yeah. So he's pretty crazy and out there.
Yeah, that's some vengeance right there.
Yeah. Crazy vengeance, man.
Oh, does the book talk too? So that's horrible.
Yeah. He does talk.
So he's like aware of himself.
Uh-huh. And this used to be like
Oh, and
the
the head
book.
talks too. Okay, that
Yeah, like the book's name is Edmund, and the head is named Toppin. But Edmund the book, he used to be like a really good-looking guy, but now he's trapped as like this ugly face book.
and he remembers who he was, right?
Yeah, he remembers everything. So now he's just forever stuck as a book, you know.
Yeah, that is. I mean,
And you used to be like a good-looking guy, and it's like, wow.
hey,
It's just the
so
awful existence.
that's like next level revenge.
Yeah.
That's like constant revenge. It's like no, getting you back once isn't good enough. I got to get you back for an eternity.
Like he's not even gonna kill you, man. He's just gonna keep
Yeah.
you around as a book.
Right, he's going to
You
keep you
know.
around. I mean, it's like most people would like want the revenge, and then they'd want to forget about you, for closure. But no. He wants
Yeah, and that
right.
definitely says a lot about Jeffrey's character. Like he's just become so bitter and so like just engulfed in all of this. He's just not, you know, kind of detached in certain, aspects. But
Yeah,
Sir Alexander, he basically calls up Jeffrey because Jeffrey kind of owes him a favor, but it comes at a cost. So you'll find out what that cost is to Sir Alexander later on. But yeah.
interesting. Yeah, this style of revenge is next level sadistic. I'm just saying.
I mean, it's like a lot of, the Grimm Brothers Grimm, fairy tales. It's
Right.
like really dark stuff. There's different versions of, Red Riding Hood. But in some of them, like, she gets eaten and then they have to cut her out and all of this stuff. Like, that was always crazy as a kid, and then you have, like, it's just so different.
Yeah, I remember that when I was a child, the Red Riding Hood story was very violent at the end.
Oh
Yeah,
yeah.
she gets
Always.
eaten, and then the woodsman comes and busts in the door and cuts the wolf open, and
Mm-hmm.
out comes Red Riding Hood and her grandma. And it's like, wait, how come grandma's still alive?
Exactly. And I mean, it's just crazy. Even stuff like, Beauty and the Beast, The Little Mermaid, it was just so dark and so twisted. And I feel like fantasy and, horror in general is kind of missing that aspect. And I mean, a lot of that stuff kind of taught a lesson with it.
I think a lot of it has to do with the era those books were written in.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, if you think about it, education at that time, children weren't very educated. They learned to read a little bit older than children learn to read now.
Mm-hmm.
Unless they had somebody in home teaching them, because they wouldn't live near a schoolhouse, and so they wouldn't go to school until they were like 6, 7, 8 is the first time they went to school. So they're not learning words unless someone taught them in the home. Um,
Exactly. Yeah.
and then the school curriculum was mixed between a lot of different age groups. So yeah, I think most books and were targeted towards adults just in general back then. And then of course, if you were a well-read adult, you were probably educated and cultured to some degree, so art had to twist you know
And I mean, I feel like nowadays too, like art has kind of lost a lot of its meaning. I mean, if you go to like art gallery, it's like what do you see there? You see like a crazy kind of like for lack of a better word, like a it's kind of like junk, like
yeah.
literal junk.
Well, a lot of
And
it is.
formations are like trash bags floating in the wind by
Well,
a fan. Like it's just very bizarre.
it's
Like
probably
it's go
it's
ahead.
probably because a lot of art, good art, has a price.
Exactly.
And I don't mean it like,
Bingo. Yeah.
yeah, I mean it costs you something to create it. I mean, it not just
Hmm.
not monetary. I mean, like a
Kind of
piece
physically. Yeah.
physically, and a piece of your soul.
Hmm.
I mean, any good piece of artwork costs a piece of the soul of the artist.
Yeah, because you're drawing from experience.
Yeah.
Most of the time. Yeah.
Well, and you have to. I mean, if you want to do something really, I mean, not just writing, not just drawing, but writing, anything, musicians, directors, filmmakers, they really have to, if they're creating something good, they have to dig deep. They can't just, do something they've done a million times, or it's not going to be good. I mean,
Exactly.
they'll write, you know what I mean, but it'll be like, oh, I seen that, you know.
I mean, even like abstract pieces, like you still get a feel for what they're going for. And I mean, it's just very bizarre how they do that now, you know. And there's mannequins and all sorts of stuff that just makes no sense and there's no attachment to it.
Yeah. Well, a lot of that reminds me of, like, it's like a different twist on, like, the whole dark Art Deco movement almost.
Yeah.
I'm like, really? What the heck is that thing we're looking at now? Isn't that just like three cubes with the circle? How is that art?
Three cubes with the
That's
circle. Yeah.
geometry, right? It's like,
Uh-huh. Exactly.
yeah. Yeah, I've seen, and then there's people that just try to shock with their art. They're not really trying to make art. They're just trying to, like, get you to talk about them.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean? And that's not, see, that to me, that's like the commercialized version of art.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
It's this commercialism where people are thinking about getting paid for their art instead of think about making good art. You
Oh
know,
yeah.
and that's the difference, because really good art comes from the soul, the heart, the inside you, deep inside. Like, you're going to release the stuff that scares you the most. You're going to release the stuff that you can't tell people in real life, but you're going to put it into your work somehow. You're going to release all your demons into your art, and
All those anxieties, everything. Yeah.
yeah, all your hate, all your fear, all your lust, all your loathing, everything. You're gonna have that character that's based on that person that picked on you in high school. You know what I mean? You're,
Nice. Yeah.
you know, that's it. That's where good art comes from. It's not. It doesn't work in reverse where. Okay, well, we need a movie about this and four people who are gonna have a dinner, and then we need it to have demographic because we want this to be interracial and
And you can
diverse.
always tell when they insert that stuff.
Yeah. Ugh,
And it has no creative, reasoning or purpose at all.
right. It always drove me crazy, even from when I was a little child, how people will rehash a product and just it's like, oh, we're putting a new spin on it, and it's like, okay, you know what? Wait. You don't think that you're doing your overall cause harm when you do this. You don't think that you're creating hard bias in ignorant people when you do this, because
Exactly.
that's exactly what you're doing. It's yeah, you're creating a hard bias in the ill-informed mindset, and
Mm-hmm.
you're actually working against your own purposes. No one's going to like all of a sudden
Exactly.
accept something because you put out a movie that forced it on them, especially if you kill their existing love of property. uh you know there's
Oh,
only one
it's
there's
rough
only
out there. Yeah.
yeah, you know what I mean. It's funny. It's like I think back, and I could go, the earliest. Okay, so the earliest time I remember something like that happening, that that people didn't like, but it was so different. It almost it kind of like caught wind. Was, I don't know if you're probably not old enough to remember when The Wiz came out.
Yeah, I've seen it. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay, so when it came out, there was like a huge controversy because The Wizard of Oz was being totally tweaked out, and it wasn't a black and white thing. It was more like, they're changing all the traditional songs. They were changing, like the whole attitude of the story. It's like it was almost like how everybody hates how something gets Hollywooded. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
Um, at the same time, it's
But
like the
it did
people.
enough new stuff that
Well,
it
yeah, that's
felt
that's my point.
justified.
Yeah,
Yeah.
my point is something completely different. The way I look at it is The Wiz actually was all right and totally on par, even though no one's really been able to do it successfully so very frequently. I mean, maybe one or two times since then. But the reason why The Wiz worked in my mind is because it was targeting a new audience, a different audience, and it was targeting an old story, reinterpreted, you know, with a modern edge to a different audience, to an audience that wasn't able to accept the story the way it was before.
Mm-hmm.
You know, and I mean, some of the stuff in The Wiz was pretty dumb. You know what I mean? And
But
so,
I mean, I also feel like, with theater and stuff like that and stage plays, I feel like that's a little bit more accepting, in that kind of
with,
situation
yes,
environment.
and,
Yeah.
and and that's the history of stage theater, though,
Yeah.
because there was a time you wouldn't even have women actors. You would only have male actors, and they would have to play women.
Exactly.
You know, so you know and that's one of the reasons why I get irritated when I hear all these people making a big deal about blackface. I can understand making a big deal about blackface if it was intended to be mockery. But when, like, you don't have, like, say for instance, small town Ohio, you know if or areas of Canada, or you may not have talent available to you, and so, and I don't know, today's days, we're more diverse, where I don't think that it today is, but like so many people make a big deal about things, about diversity,
Hmm.
like,
And I mean, like, history is history. Like, you
yeah,
kind of just have to accept it and, move
and
on.
right, and they turn it into sexism, they turn it into racism, they turn it into, you know what I mean,
Yeah. And I
into
mean, sometimes it's like, a comedy thing. Like, somebody's doing it for a bit,
yeah. I mean,
let it go.
And here's the thing also, you got to think, okay, well, yeah, sure, the bit may have been tasteless now, right? But it's like, and I mean, and it may be offensive now to the mass audience, but you got to think of when that bit was done. These people are trying to make a buck. They're trying to be successful in entertainment, and they were just
Hmm.
targeting their demographic with what they thought was funny,
Yeah,
for
like it's
them.
just a thing of the times, you know.
Yeah. No, like for instance, Al Jolson, is the most famous, one that everybody hates now because of the whole, you know what I'm talking about. And
Uh-huh.
the thing is if you ever like study his history, the man was like so far from racist, it's unreal. You
Uh-huh.
know?
I know they were trying to people were posting around a bit with like Bing Crosby where he was doing it like in a film. I'm
Yes.
like, guys,
Yeah.
come on.
And now Bing Crosby of all people, most of the musicians he worked with, most of the people he traveled on the road with. You know what I mean?
Uh-huh.
It's like he had a very diverse. He had Cubans, he had African Americans, he had, what I mean, in his
Exactly.
in his band, the people on the road with him all the time that he would drink with and be on the road with. So it's
Yeah, and I mean context matters with with everything.
yeah.
And they kind of seem to forget that,
It
you
just
know.
cracks me up. It's sad, and I mean, we're here talking about, like, the whole
Hmm.
basics of reverse engineering art. You know what I mean?
Yeah. I mean, even for like Halloween, I know people try to make a big deal about that, but it's like it's Halloween and you're supposed to play characters. And they
Yeah,
even get kind of weird about that too.
yeah. I don't understand why people get uptight. I remember when I was growing up, everybody, a lot of people every year there'd be two or three Jimi Hendrixes. You know what I
Uh
mean?
huh.
And it's like I love Jimmy. You know what I mean? It's I mean, but I don't. I mean, it's like they're just trying to look like Jimi Hendrix. It's not like they're trying. I mean, and they love Jimi Hendrix. They're definitely not mocking him. It's like,
Exactly. I mean, it's like special effects makeup and that, putting prosthetics on, just becoming the character. I mean, even they're trying to get a Robert Downey Jr. now for like Tropic Thunder.
oh no, really? They're going after.
Yeah.
Oh man.
Yeah, they've been doing the rounds on Twitter and I'm like, guys, that was obviously it's
All
a
right. So
comedy first off.
all right. So what's next? Dustin Hoffman's going to get hassled for doing Tootsie. I mean,
Yeah.
come on.
Exactly.
No, you're sexist for dressing like a woman. No, you're not
That's what they're
really trans. You're not
man.
really trans. It's like, what? Okay.
Oh boy. Yeah.
Let's just ruin all entertainment now.
Yeah, and it's like dredging up this stuff isn't going to do anything now. Like you're not going to benefit from any of this. It's just very, I don't know. It's just a waste of time.
Yeah, totally. And that's just the way it goes. It's people are going to be like that, especially when the bottom line, dollar wise, is what drives the industry. Because sadly enough, when things go bottom line dollar, then the people that make the upper level decisions are business people and not artists. So
Yeah, that makes it tough because I mean a lot of, execs and stuff, they don't have that kind of creative spark. They're just kind of doing their own thing. So then it's hard to, as a creator, kind of navigate through this field and, still make a product that's marketable and kind of putting your stamp on it. So it's
well,
hard, kind of, trying to
there
find that balance.
there's that. Plus, you live out there, so you can probably tout for what I'm talking about here, and that is there is a degree of sycophancy that exists in the industry because people are so desperate to get ahead that they will
Very
do
desperate.
anything they think you want to hear. No matter what it is, they will kiss your butt. Like, oh, that's a great idea, boss. Oh my God, that's so brilliant. You're such a genius.
Oh, the yes men, the worst. Wow. Yeah, those guys. Oof.
Those that really hurts the industry because then you get these people who they maybe they're a producer that produced a successful movie that somebody else they either stumbled across it or and then they have like one success and maybe a couple of small smaller successes that follow it up, the kind of success that anybody could pull off if they had the money,
Mm-hmm.
and then they get these egos, and then they have all their sycophants surrounding them, and yeah, no, that's that's one of the things about LA that makes it where I can't live there.
Oh, that's funny. Yeah.
And then try to just you can't go into a Starbucks in LA. It's just
And a
impossible.
lot. Oh, yeah, no. Yeah, no. That's a big no. Oh, boy. It's a nightmare.
Oh man, it's just
It's scary. Yeah, no. Like, it's just very, what was I going to say? Yeah. It's just a weird sort of environment.
Yeah, and it's all industry driven.
Mm-hmm.
It's
And it's
it's
a lot of who you know.
in the industry. It's always who you know.
Yeah,
I mean,
I mean,
even in
because look at some of the Marvel films. It's like some of the people that went on to like direct that stuff. The only thing on their resume was like maybe some shorts that they, like kind of student film type stuff too. And it's like, the next movie they have on their resume, all of a sudden out of nowhere, is like, a Marvel movie, and you're like, whoa, like, how did that happen? It's
yeah,
so bizarre.
then you find out that there's somebody's nephew or whatever.
A
Oh,
friend of like
yeah,
Brie Larson. Yeah.
a friend of Brie Larson. Somebody's got blackmail on somebody.
Oh no.
I
Not
got
the
these pictures.
blackmail.
Yeah, a lot of Hollywood is driven by unwanted photographs these days. That part I crack up on when I hear those stories.
Ooh.
Yeah, it's yeah, especially with cell phones. Everybody's got a cell phone, and I don't know if you've
I
ever had.
I I just don't get how with cell phones now, how people think they're gonna get away with stuff when everybody and their mother has a phone with a pretty decent camera on there
Right. Yeah, I mean,
and recording capabilities, and they think that they're going to be fine like at the back of like a restaurant. Like
yeah, at the back of a restaurant, at that Hollywood party.
exactly. Everybody has a phone. What are you doing?
Yes, no, you are in an open garden. There's
Mm-hmm.
like 70 people around here.
At the
Oh.
party. Well, most parties now they actually have you check your phone in.
Oh, really?
Yeah, that's a new thing.
That's a good move.
And then you have to sign an NDA too.
Really? That,
Uh-huh.
that's
That's
pretty
that's
wild.
the new thing, man. That's the new
Yeah,
thing.
NDA.
So you don't get caught, because there's no phones.
Right. That's crazy. Then people are gonna be trying to smuggle in stuff at that point. But
Well,
there's a lot of money in paparazzi in that area too. So now they're what?
oh yeah, they're vultures. The
Well,
worst. Yeah.
yeah. Since especially since the internet explosion, it got really really bad because it used to be just the tabloids, and now it's
Hmm.
like
You have TMZ. Yeah.
you get all the internet rags. And then you have even like what Perez Hilton, he'll pay top dollar for something really really nasty.
Oh yeah. Exactly. And it's just the quality's awful, and it's like the production is just rough. Yeah.
Right. Yeah. Oh.
And all they
Oh.
do is kind of slap it out, put it out there. And
Yeah.
ugh.
The only editing will be to make it look worse.
Yeah, they're gonna chop it to hell and back then.
Right. Or they might even add graining or whatever to make you question the image
Ooh.
more.
Uh-huh. Yeah, I've
I've seen,
seen them play that game. Mm.
yeah. It's horrible. It's horrible. uh it's nice talking to you because it's we definitely share a lot of experiences with that area. Yeah.
Exactly. Oh, it's like just stories for days that you could, tell. It's like such hijinks. And, especially if you get to stuff like script reads, on set mishaps, like it just gets, it's almost unbelievable when
Yeah.
you tell people the stories and they're just like, what? It's just so out there, so bizarre.
So,
Like,
as a script editor, do you ever have to do any script supervision?
yeah, I've done that from time to time.
Does that pay better?
It does.
Yeah, I thought so. I was thinking it
It
would.
does indeed.
Good.
Much better.
Yeah. Uh, is there a union for that yet?
I don't know yet, man.
You don't
Like
know.
it's no, like it's very murky. And I mean, what is it? Like you have the Writers Guild.
Right. There's the Writers Guild.
Most stuff
There's the
kind of
there's
falls under that. Yeah.
there's the crew.
Mm-hmm.
So if it falls in the Writers Guild, and the reason why I ask is the insurance. Do you get the insurance and stuff? Because that's
Nope.
that's that's the best thing about unions is
Yeah.
they get you covered.
Mm-hmm. But it's like there's always pros and cons with unions, like anything.
Right.
And then it's like when a strike starts to creep up around the corner, and you're like,
Right.
no. Oh man, yeah, it's like no.
Yeah. The only reason why I even deal with the unions when I'm considering a production or whatever is because if you go low budget, you can go ultra low budget SAG, and then there's a lot of
Mm-hmm.
people out there who don't work that would love to have their name on a movie that has some kind of potential, so, or a project that has some kind of potential. There's a lot of out of work actors that that a few $1,000 sounds really good. Like,
Yeah. Let's see.
yeah.
El Gargoyle asked, "Have I seen Joe Rogan's interview with Chuck Palahniuk? That's the Fight Club guy, the author. I have not seen. I didn't know he did an interview with him.
I
I'll
haven't
have to
seen it
go
either.
back and check that out.
Yeah, that's definitely something to check out. He did mean Joe Rogan, I assume.
Yeah,
Toe
definitely
Rogan.
Joe.
It's a different guy. This guy's just got a big toe.
Well, the T is close to the R on the keyboard, so it's
Right.
it's an easy misspelling. Yeah.
Right, but not the J.
Oh, yeah, because it's the Joe part. Wow, that was. It's like signs that you need more coffee. Confirmed.
Right. Yeah, it's fun times. Fun times. All right, so let's talk about these covers here.
Ooh, well, these are actually print posters.
Oh, these are print posters. This one is.
Yeah.
So
This one here, it has the guy that turned Sir Alexander into a teddy bear, King Mikkel. He's a Danish king back in the time of Arthur, who he's the one that we have in the story who's in possession of the Holy Grail. And Sir Alexander was tasked with bringing this grail to Arthur, who's ailing, and they figured that giving him kind of a sip from the grail will restore his, health. And, Sir Alexander ultimately fails at this task and gets changed into a bear and kind of, pushed forward in time.
yeah, I'm wondering. Okay, so this is a question that's on my mind.
Go ahead.
Now, you told me where the inspiration for the bear comes from, but is there any thought into why a teddy bear? Because was it something that Sir Alexander did before that made him become a cuddle toy?
Well, this is actually importance to King Mikkel. He has an interesting relationship with Sir Alexander, because Sir Alexander kind of befriended him, and he kind of felt like they were close and stuff, and Sir Alexander kind of betrayed that to kind of steal an object that he's in possession of. So he decided to kind of turn him into an object. And the object that, King Mikkel kind of chose was like, a teddy bear. And you'll kind of see the importance of that to him. And, it's just kind of like teddy bears are kind of like, security. And he felt secure with Sir Alexander and their friendship. And it kind of got betrayed. So that's kind of the reasoning behind that.
So it's not like he like really secretly just wanted to hug on him a lot. I just want to hug him every day, all day long.
So funny.
Uh, yeah. Okay. So that was this poster. And what's this guy's name here is this isn't the king? He's got like powers, or is it?
Yeah, King Mikkel has elemental powers. He is
Okay.
a warlock as well.
Okay. So
So
this
he
is
has some pretty cool casting abilities as well.
all right.
And the other guy is Sir Alexander in human form. That's what he
Right.
looks like. Yeah.
Yeah. This is where he's getting turned into the bear.
Yep.
And this is the queen, the evil
Yeah,
queen.
Queen Belladonna. Yeah, this is another print poster as well.
Yeah. She's got a lot of purple hair.
Yeah, pretty neat. Yeah, and she uses her hair kind of similar to the way Medusa, the Marvel character, kind of uses her hair.
Ah.
But Queen Belladonna kind of uses it in a different way. She kind of uses magic to kind of wield her hair as a tool in fights and stuff like that. And her people, which kind of got wiped out with this war with the dragons. So there's not many of her people or her kind left, but they are like really powerful casters. And they have 6 arms, and each hand they can cast a spell. So before you can cast one spell, she's already coming at you with 6. So they were like very dangerous, and the other kind of kingdoms were kind of intimidated by them and decided to sort of attack them and cause like a mass extinction type situation where they're just trying to weed all of them out. So she's kind of another one of her kind of motivations as a villain.
Excellent. Very thoughtful. Okay, and then what are we looking at here in this? This is the cover A.
Yep, correct.
So we have Sir Alexander in giant form.
Yeah.
And
Kind of the idea behind this one is, like those old Star Wars posters.
oh, okay.
How you kind of saw each character kind of having a little bit of a spotlight on the posters, and it's kind of like this watercolor type, effect going on.
I got
And
you.
that was kind of the idea behind this one.
It's really neat. It's really neat. So now, what was his name? Jeffrey, right?
Yeah, Jeffrey.
Jeffrey. So his eye glows.
Uh-huh.
Or is that just for the poster? Or the
No,
cover?
it actually does. You'll see in some different sequences that it's definitely glowing.
And the
And I
other eye is
mean,
missing, right?
yeah, it's totally gone. There's nothing in that socket.
Cool. All right. So now let's tell people where they can get the Good Night right now.
Well, right now the campaign is closed, but if you want to support the Good Night and some of the other projects that we have going on, definitely, go to our Patreon, kind of check that out. And if you want to support that way, that'd be great. Yeah.
And we'll put the Patreon link in the description. It would be there now, except that I can't change what's going on right now without destroying the video that we're running.
Well, I can put it in the chat as well.
Oh yeah,
So that'll be pretty easy.
Yeah, there we go. So that'll work out. And then let's talk about your successful campaign. Now, your campaign on February 14th. That was a while ago. February 14th, 2019. You closed it at 12,230, and then you were in demand for a while and stopped at 16,325, right?
Yeah. I mean, we closed it on Halloween night because we're starting to wrap up the print file and getting those numbers off to the printer. So it's just, time to close it and, get those books out to people and get that whole process going.
So, what kind of stuff did you do to promote? What do you think was the let's start these questions out one at a time. What do you think was the hardest, most difficult part of raising the money for your campaign?
Ooh. Well, I feel like it was just kind of getting eyes on your book. And it definitely helped because I kind of fostered, relationships with people in the comics community and kind of, interacting with people, whether on live chats or, live streams and stuff like that. And, just kind of showing people that you're there and then kind of in a unique, not kind of like shilly way, but like mentioning that you have a comic,
Yeah,
that kind of balance and stuff like that. So
right.
it definitely helps if you kind of, engage with your audience first and kind of, people see you around, they kind of get to know you. And yeah, so it was just kind of hard at first getting attention to the project, but it eventually worked out. And I was, there's some people along the way, like, Ethan Van Sciver, John Malin, and, just the whole community is fantastic. And Comicsgate's been great, man. Yeah.
Yeah, there's some great people on Comicsgate. There really is. All right. Okay. So, what was like? Say obviously that we kind of covered a couple of questions in there. Obviously, the coolest part is probably the people you've made friends with. Um, what would you say was like the biggest tip, other than everybody says the same thing. Build up your following ahead of time. What is, aside from that, the obvious? What would you say is the biggest tip you can give people who have not launched their campaign yet or in the middle of
Ooh,
their campaign?
that's a good one. Well, I would say, with, creating a product and whatnot, you want to make something that not only you will enjoy, but, your audience will enjoy as well. And the quality of the art, the quality of the writing, make sure, and even just the concept, you have to look at this, in a light of, is this marketable, will people enjoy this, can I expand on this with more issues, or if people want a sequel, is it something, is there enough material there to do that? And so just stuff to think about. Get a couple of preview pages, like 4 or 5, so people kind of get the flow of your story, stuff like that. And you really have to, I've noticed with Indiegogo, like you really have to hit the ground running, promotion wise, and really push it and push it. Yeah.
Mhm. All right. So that is good advice. That is solid advice. Um,
Ooh, and another thing also, and I kind of learned this along the way, but when you're setting up the Indiegogo campaign, like spend a lot of time on the layout and kind of placement and the graphics and all of that. Because this page for the good night could be a lot cleaner. And you kind of learn this stuff along the way. But when people kind of come to see it, first impressions matter. And so you want to get it into a place that's very pleasing to the eye and kind of, get all of the information out that needs to, in the first couple of, paragraphs. And yeah.
yeah, that's internet marketing. The first thing that we realize is that some people do not scroll down.
Exactly.
You
And
want
you
to,
have to catch them
yeah,
right there at first. Yeah.
yeah. You got to give people a reason to look into it further, from the first thing that you show them, or try and communicate it all right there if you can.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I mean, pictures always, if you have like pages for people to see, that's kind of, that usually sells them alone. Um,
Yeah,
so yeah.
really beautiful artwork, and something that is catchy,
hmm
especially, is good. you know.
Yeah, and I mean, comics is a visual medium, so
Yeah,
yeah,
it's also
got to get those
also
visuals out
yeah,
there.
it's also escapism. So always, if you're going to focus on something, focus on the escapist elements of your book. People don't want to know about the logical, boring shit.
Exactly. And I mean, that's always a struggle. And, with comics, games, television and movies, there's a balance between showing and telling. And that's always, it's kind of like a tug of war. You have to really work on that because you don't want to say too much and you never want to show too much. So there has to be a balance.
I definitely agree. Yeah, sometimes that balance is never like some kind of formula you can follow from project to project. That's the hardest
Hmm.
part. That what you know,
It's
like
always changing depending on what you're doing
some
and the genre.
well, like for instance, my project, I have to show more of it to convince people that it's not porn.
Oh, that's interesting.
Well, it's just because my book is Captain Love. It's
Ah, so it's already got the title going. Yeah.
right. People just assume that it's all sexualized and I mean
Well,
there
that's
are
kind of like it makes me think of kind of like European comics and stuff like Barbarella and whatnot.
right. Well, my favorite comics growing up were heavy metal. So
Ooh, yeah, mine too, man.
yeah,
Yeah.
those were a little bit more adult, but they were also a lot more intellectual and a lot more fun and a lot
Some of those were deep, man.
yeah, they were super deep. I mean, and they were like tragic. I mean, they'd make you want to cry, you know?
Uh
And
huh.
the characters had like horrible, horrible tragic flaws. And I mean, the murder was just insane. There is I mean, it was for me that was I didn't really grow up reading the X-Men as much as I grew up reading that. Uh
Hmm.
I was always drawn to the comic books that nobody that were like obscure. They weren't really called indie back then. They were just smaller publishers. Like ones that would just be only California based, or they were first run, and I would always be excited by them because they'd be like first runs. And it would be something new that nobody had. And I'd be like, oh, cool, I'll be the first one at my school with it. And then
Hmm.
then the sad part be like after 5 or 6 issues, they would tank out and they would stop making them because they never got big enough. Or
Yeah.
yeah. So
Did you see they made like a feature? Did you ever catch that for
what
heavy metal?
the cartoon? I've seen both of them.
Yeah.
Yes. In fact, when I was
Really loved the first one.
yeah. Well, I'm going to date myself here, but I saw the first one in the
In
drive
theaters, huh?
in the drive-in movie with my sister and her date because she had to take me along or she couldn't go on the date.
So you
Uh,
had to tag along.
yeah. So I was already reading Heavy Metal magazine at that point. I was already reading the comics because it was something we were bad little boys. We would trade those books around at school, and that's basically where we ran into each other. So but we would,
Nice.
we would yeah, so we would trade books then, and sometimes we wouldn't always just trade heavy metal because we didn't that wasn't the only thing, but we would trade like our dad's porn magazines, the Playboys, the Hustlers, that kind of stuff. And we would also trade other things that we get our hands on, but for the most part, I was always trying to get my hands on the next issue of heavy metal because I couldn't buy it. The only place they sold heavy metal in my town was in there was one liquor store that sold it, but then the only other place you could get it was in the head shop, and I couldn't go into the head shop at 7 years old.
Exactly.
So we had to get them from the big brothers that would buy them, and then they'd get stolen from the younger brother, and then they
That
would
is
go into
so
exchange.
funny. Uh-huh.
Yeah. And so we would all, and so we would always like every month we would have a strategy on how to get our hands on another book. You know, it'd be like, okay, who's got the book? Who's got it? Oh, did so and so buy it? And sometimes we'd pull our money together, and then have somebody buy the book for us, and then it would go into trade. You know, like who's got it first, kind of thing. And then
Like a big brother, big sister. Like, hey,
exactly.
can you go get it?
Oh, my sister is 8.5 years older than me, so she wasn't allowed to go into the head shop, but they would let her buy it from the liquor store. So,
Hmm.
but then she got in trouble because I got caught at school with it.
And then they're like, "Where'd you get
Yeah,
this?"
where did you get this? I'm like, I don't know. And then like, where? And then they're like telling my parents, where did he get this? He's bringing this to school. So my parents asked my sister, of course, you know, and then
And
my
then it's like, "Oops, yeah." I
yeah,
mean, it's interesting, mentioning that. It's like accessibility is totally different now for stuff
right,
like that. I mean, you could even buy like digital issues of heavy metal now from their website. And anybody that could get their hands on, like a credit card or anything like that, like you have instant access now.
yeah. There's probably pirated versions everywhere too. So
I'm sure the pirates are always hard at work. Yeah.
right.
Scoundrels. Yeah.
Yeah, and I mean, I wonder what's going to happen to society in general since the internet is raising children these days. Um,
Ooh, yeah, that's like the first thing people do, it's like they sit their kids right in front of the TV and they're like, "Here's the remote."
right.
And they don't even really put restrictions on it or like the parental
All right.
locks and all
So
that.
so like
So then they're just stuck on HBO watching Game of Thrones.
well, yeah, but it's even worse in some areas. Like I don't know how how much you're familiar with this particular scenario, but like I know a lot of people. Um, like I've worked with a lot of different types of people, so I interact with a few. You might call them uh, Section 8 moms. You know what I mean?
Mm,
And
gotcha.
yeah, they have like four boys maybe, maybe three boys and a girl, and they get the discount or free internet because supposedly they need to have internet so the kids can study. You know,
Hmm.
of course those
Quote
boys.
unquote.
Yeah,
Yeah.
and then they have access to phones, because
Hmm.
it's really because there's those discount plans. There's the free plan, you get the free phone, but they also have extreme discount plans where like if you get this, you can put somebody else on for dirt, and then then they're not even really using their data; they're just using the internet. But I mean the stories I've heard from like these mothers, they're just nightmares because they like, their boys are just, at night, they can't get they feel like they have to take the phones away from them before sending them to bed. It's just,
Ooh, yeah, that's when you've gone too far. Yeah.
yeah. Hey, we got Brian Christgau in the chat.
Hey, Brian.
I don't know why it shows that the chats, the comments late on
Think
StreamYard.
it's a delay, man.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. I get to see them first on the YouTube page, and then they show up eventually over here to get highlighted. That's kind of wild. But Brian's really cool, dude. He was on. We're talking about his book Six Gun Gorilla not too long ago, and he's a really good guy. He's also a huge horror fan, and he and I are gonna
Nice.
yeah he and I are gonna
Yeah.
start doing some fun horror reviews where we're gonna challenge each
Like a
other.
horror stream. Ooh.
Yeah. Oh yeah. Oh, and definitely, if you want to come on and chat with us, you'll be welcome. You're definitely. I know you're a horror fanatic, so
Yeah, for
you'll
sure.
be welcome. Yeah. So we're definitely gonna try and make some movie horror film noise. Bring up some rare ones. Introduce stuff that no one's ever seen. Try and land some kind of sponsorships. Maybe, who knows. But yeah, Brian's a really really cool dude. So anybody who is interested, go check out Brian. If you're on Indiegogo, look up Six Gun Gorilla. While you're surfing the internet, make sure you go to Crystal McGhee's Patreon, and we'll put the link somewhere for you to find at some point. Did you put it in the chat anywhere? No.
Yeah, it's
You
in the
did?
chat.
Okay,
But
so
I
it's in the chat.
believe I don't know if you can how YouTube works with that and like links and stuff. I almost think I don't know if you have to be a moderator or what.
I think you have to be a moderator to do links. Let's see.
Ah,
I have to figure out. So I can now. You are now a moderator in my chat room. So if you want to throw a link, go ahead. You should be anyway. There, yeah, you are. See, there you go.
ooh, yeah,
Woo. There you go.
very cool.
Yeah, and when you come back, you'll probably still be a moderator. So
Yeah, definitely. Be popping in from time to time.
yeah, definitely. And then when we're doing horror, come and if you want to moderate. If you want to jump in the chat, I mean, unless we're all filled up, I mean, there'll always be a seat for you. So
Sweet, yeah.
yeah, no, yeah, good people. And this the trick that I found, and while we're thinking about that, let me copy this link real fast. Why don't you also paste a link to your YouTube channel?
Well, I believe they can just click on my icon and chat, and then there's like 3 little dots on the right, and then
Yeah,
it says go to channel
I think
or
it's
something to that effect.
yeah, unless they're watching from their phone. I don't think
Ah, gotcha.
yeah. Yeah, so that's the only logic behind it, is if it's difficult for them. So you are up to 187 subscribers, which is a good start. How long have you had this channel live?
I've had it around, but I haven't done anything really till this year.
Okay, so you were just mostly a viewer before.
Yeah, always lurking. Yeah, never
Alert.
really
I like this
doing much.
video. I don't like this video.
Exactly. Like I definitely comment on videos and stuff like that, but just recently got into doing videos and trying to build up the channel and stuff like that.
Excellent. Well, don't let me forget when we get off of the stream to talk about that part a little bit further about audience building. Sweet. No, I see you're doing mostly interviews here, like the Good Night Countdown. What is audio logs? What's that?
Oh, that's where it was like a live stream event that we had. It's related to that live countdown video. But
Well,
basically, it was like a countdown to the trailer. And then there was like throughout the live stream, there was little audio conversations between characters that'll eventually appear in the Good Night. So, like, you have Merlin, King Arthur, the kind of memorable knights that kind of pop into your, pop up when you think of, the round table. So there's little audio conversations between them.
well, very cool. Very cool. Okay, so if you have not subscribed and you're watching this video, go subscribe to Crystal McGhee. It's McGhee's channel.
Very catchy.
Yeah, that is catchy. I'm sure a lot of people have just shouted out "It's McGhee" when they see your
All the time.
all
All the time.
and it's funny because if somebody's trying, if they're a little bit too fast in the chat, they're gonna have a hard time hitting your thing, because it usually takes 3 characters before it bring up your name, and you have apostrophe.
I
And
know. That's the only tricky thing about this because it's so catchy, but then there is that apostrophe there's that it's like, oh no.
yeah, the drunks will never be able to highlight you.
Exactly.
It could be a good thing though. It's just cuts down on the dick pics.
So funny.
All right, how long have we been going here? Oh well, we've been streaming for a while. So I think what we can do here is we can hit any last pitches. Make sure you go and check out the Patreon. The link is in the chat. Make sure that you go and subscribe to the YouTube channel. And when she launches, and then also the Twitter is, let's see, what's the Twitter? I'm sure it's just equally as easy, right?
It's at Crystal McGhee, and that's CrystalMchee. And one thing I did forget to mention is there is like a sort of a newsletter, sort of a list for a issue 2 campaign that I can drop in the chat here as well. And
Yeah,
that's just so you guys can, kind of stay up to date for when that does launch.
Yeah, and I see that you have a link for your Patreon on your Twitter as well.
Yep. So you can find it there.
So it is Crystal McGhee, as you see here. It is spelled CrystalMcghee, just like
Correct.
it says right here. All right, Crystal. We are going to sign off now, and then
thanks for having me on, man.
Yeah, don't go anywhere. You and I will we'll talk about some other stuff here offline. But everybody who showed up, everybody who's coming around to watch, make sure you smash that like button. And we're so happy you showed up. And please come again soon. All right, we're ending the broadcast. Wow, wow, wow.